Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
And today it says it's our all-English lecture, but today, of course, we're going to have our Chinese teachers come in and do the whole lesson for you today. Stephanie and myself are going to take a little bit of a break. We're going to hang out in the other room in the studio here while our Chinese teachers come in and take over for you. No, that's not the case. April Fools, that's not what's happening, actually. It's actually the opposite. It's our all-English lecture, and it's our Chinese teachers that have the day off today. So we're talking about April Fool's Day, of course. That's today. That's why I kind of pulled that little prank on you there. Probably caught you off guard. You weren't quite sure what to think there, but we're having fun and foolery on April Fool's Day.
Now, of course, when I was growing up, that would be one of the fun days of the year, in early April, and planning the ways you could trick your family, your friends, your parents. Yeah, I ended up tricking a couple people, but most of the kids are very well aware that it's April 1st. When that day rolls around, so they're all prepared. I think it's easier to trick your parents, your folks, or maybe a younger brother or sister. But it's fun to play jokes and tricks and pranks, as Tom said, on people. Get them to believe something that's not true. I remember when I was growing up, and they're still doing it today, newspapers would also print fake stories like there was a tree that grew spaghetti. Do you remember that?
Yes, we're actually going to be mentioning that in today's program. Yep.
That's a very famous one. I can't imagine how people would actually believe that to be true. But there's a word for people like that. We call them gullible, G-U-L-L-I-B-L-E. They'll believe anything. So anyway, we're going to get started as we always do. We're going to read through today's lesson. And Tom and I are going to try to talk a little more clearly, a little more slowly, Tom. And if you use a word that we don't know, you need to define it.
Okay, so let's get to it. Let's read the entire contents of our lesson now one time. Unit 1. Fun and foolery on April Fool's Day, April 1st. The day is April 1st. You come into class and can hardly believe your eyes. All of the desks, chairs, and writing on the board are upside down. Your teacher acts like nothing strange is going on, and you're totally confused. That is, until a classmate points out what day it is, April Fool's Day. Celebrated on the first day of April, this holiday is the delight of pranksters everywhere. Its origins are uncertain, but some accounts say it began in 16th century France with Poisson d'Avril, or April fish. After France changed its calendar, paper fish were pasted on the backs of fools still celebrating New Year's in April, as was previously the custom. The holiday has kept this fishy reference in its French name ever since. People celebrating April Fool's Day mainly play small, harmless pranks, but there have been some large-scale shenanigans that are truly memorable. In 1957, a BBC news program broadcast a story claiming that southern Switzerland was growing spaghetti on trees. The network even created footage of workers harvesting the pasta. The hoax fooled numerous viewers, with some calling in to ask about growing their own spaghetti trees. In Sitka, Alaska, U.S., one local played a prank on the entire city in 1974. By burning a pile of tires on top of nearby Mount Edgecombe, he made it look like the volcano was erupting. Sitka's residents were alarmed to see smoke billowing out of the mountain, but the prank was well received for its cleverness when the truth came out. If you're plotting to pull a fast one on your friends this April 1st, remember to keep it fun and safe. But don't forget, someone just as mischievous might be looking to make a fool of you, too.
Okay, guys, let's get started. We're going to be talking about April Fool's Day, which is a very fun day, mostly for kids or folks that just like to play practical jokes on people. I'm not really one of those type of folks, although, I always appreciated when someone came up with a good prank to pull. And I didn't mind if they were pulling it on me. I was okay with that. So fun and foolery. Sometimes I hear this word foolery with tomfoolery, tomfoolery, which is just kind of a phrase meaning you're messing around, or we can sometimes say they're horsing around. Yeah, quit horsing around, quit messing around. Concentrate, focus on what you're supposed to do. Kids love April Fool's Day, though, that's for sure.
Absolutely. So you need to think of a special trick or a special prank to play on someone. And so if you can think of that and fool the person, then you can have lots of fun and have lots of foolery on April Fool's Day, which is today. We shouldn't spill the beans, of course. Part of the surprise is that the person doesn't know it's April 1st.
Yeah.
We don't always, pay attention to the calendar. Oh, is it April already? Gee, how time flies. I thought it was March 15th or something. So, yeah, it's best to catch them off guard to make sure they aren't expecting it and that it is a surprise. Now, here, the first sentence, it says the day is April 1st. That's today, but we're also describing this day of April 1st and what happens on that day. Here's what might happen to you. You come into class and can hardly believe your eyes. All of the desks, chairs, and writing on the board are upside down. How the heck did that happen? You can hardly believe what you're seeing. You can't believe your eyes. How would the desk, chairs, and writing on the board all be upside down? In other words, what's on the bottom is now on the top, and what was on the top is now on the bottom.
This is a fun teacher. I love this teacher. And to make the prank even better, of course, the teacher acts like nothing's unusual. Everything's quite the same. It's normal. So she's acting or he's acting like nothing strange is going on, which is best. That's wonderful. And so you kind of become totally confused, especially if you've lost track of the date. You might know it's a Monday or a Friday, but you don't know it's April 1st. But you get what's going on. You understand that it's a prank when your classmate points out what day it is, April Fool's Day. And we actually have a way we say that, April Fools. Like that, April Fools. We don't say April Fool's Day, we just say April Fools. So it's kind of fun. If you point something out, that's a verb phrase. You can say point out something or point something out to someone. Sometimes you're using your hand and you're using your finger to point out something, but you can also explain something. You can point something out by explaining something that's confusing to someone else. And so a classmate can see that you're confused about why everything's upside down in the classroom. And so they go, oh, hey, don't you get it? It's April Fool's today.
Yep, they're going to point this out. They're going to remind you of this, or at least tell you this thing that you probably don't know about. And here in the next paragraph, it says, celebrated on the first day of April, this holiday is the delight of pranksters everywhere. A prankster, of course, is somebody who likes to play tricks on other people. This person likes to fool other people, to make a fool of those people, but for fun, usually. And it's the delight of pranksters all over the world. So delight here, of course, is a noun. That just means it's something that makes you happy. So in other words, April Fool's Day is a really great day for pranksters.
Yeah, it brings to mind two very popular movie stars who love to pull pranks on other people, and that's George Clooney and Brad Pitt. They love actually pulling pranks on each other, and they try to get a better prank than the last one. They're always doing that. It's quite fun. If you check some of their interviews, you'll see some of the pranks they've pulled on each other. They're hilarious. So some people just have that kind of personality. They're not trying to hurt anybody. They just want to have a couple laughs with their friends. So it can be a delight, something that's amusing to you that you enjoy. Now, the origins, or how we even came up with this particular holiday, as we're calling it, we're not really sure. A lot of our holidays or festivals, sometimes we're not quite sure how they started or what their origins are. Here it says the origins are uncertain, But some accounts say it began back in the 16th century in France. So 16th century would be the 1500s. And it was called Fish of April or Poisson d'Avril. If you're talking about an account of something, it's just someone relating something to you. So you've heard different stories or different accounts or different legends, you could even say. So here's an account. Sometimes if the police are investigating a crime, they'll take down someone's testimony, their account of what they saw. So it's someone's version of what they saw or what they know of something, especially how this particular festival got started.
Indeed. So this is, according to some people, maybe some old texts, they say that this particular celebration began as April Fish. That's the term in French here. I don't really pronounce my French very well, so I'm going to stay away from that. But in any case, in English, it means April Fish. And after France changed its calendar, paper fish were pasted on the backs of fools still celebrating New Year's in April. So, yes, France changed its calendar. I guess April 1st used to be the first of the year in France. They didn't like that. Maybe it was too close to summer, so they said, hey, we need to move it back. So they changed the first of the year. But some people were not aware of the change. So if you didn't know about this, you were considered a fool. So they would paste these fish on your back to indicate, hey, you're an idiot, you're a dummy, because you still think the beginning of the year was way back in January or whenever it was.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's interesting. I never knew they celebrated New Year's in April long ago. That was previously the custom. So the holiday has kept this fishy reference in its French name ever since. So that's kind of one of the accounts that we know of. Remember, we're not certain about the origins of April Fool's Day, but we're kind of giving you some of the versions that might be out there. So moving on to the next paragraph, people celebrating April Fool's Day mainly play small, harmless pranks. But there have been some large-scale shenanigans that are truly memorable. Now, we've used this word prank quite a bit. It's kind of a fun joke that you pull or play on someone. And we do use that verb to pull a prank, to prank somebody. Actually, I've heard prank being used as a verb in the last 10, 20 years. So you can prank someone. They're not supposed to hurt anybody. They're just harmless. They're fun for both sides. It might make the person you're pulling the prank on look a little silly, but that's fun, especially if it's a friend. You know, that's not going to kill us if we look a little silly to other people. Now, if something's large scale, it's much bigger. It's a much bigger version of whatever you're talking about. And shenanigans, when I see this word shenanigan, which is the singular form, I always think of Ireland. They love pulling pranks. The Irish are very fun people. They're always pulling pranks. So a shenanigan is kind of a prank you pull on someone. Or if you're talking about kids going out at night and kind of horsing around, getting into some trouble, not serious trouble, you could just say, they were outside, you know, dropping balloons, water balloons on people, getting people wet, you know, those kind of shenanigans. So little tricks you play on people, things you're doing. It says here there have been some very big pranks that have been truly memorable. And if something's memorable, you're going to remember it for a long, long time. I mentioned the spaghetti tree shenanigan or prank that was pulled a while ago. I still think of that ever so often. It's kind of interesting.
Yes, we're actually going to mention that right now in our program. But first, it's the midway point in today's explanation. So we're going to take a little bit of a break now. But please stay tuned. We'll be right back. Okay, everybody, let's continue and talk about some of these pranks that people have played on other people. I've been known to play pranks on people myself, although not necessarily waiting for April Fool's Day, but doing it any time of the year because I just love to play with people's minds, but you can't go overboard with it because sometimes people might not think it's funny, like that time I fooled James Applegate into sticking his hand into a mousetrap. mousetrap.
Ow.
Which probably hurt like heck. But in any case, we all had a good laugh at that, and I laugh about it now, even though it happened many years ago.
That's mean, Tom.
Well, Dale put me up for it. Actually, it was his idea, but I'm the one who stuck the mousetrap in the carton of cigarettes. When the Frito-Lay man came in to ask for a pack of cigarettes, of course, Jim, stuck his hand in there and got snapped by the mousetrap.
Ow.
But that's another story, but let's get back here to talk about some real pranks that people have played. Again, these are large-scale shenanigans. So, for example, way back in 1957, a BBC News program broadcast a story claiming that southern Switzerland was growing spaghetti on trees. Okay, this was according to a BBC News program, and they broadcast this story way back in 1957 that said, hey, in southern Switzerland, they're growing spaghetti on trees. What an interesting discovery. That kind of makes sense because I think southern Switzerland is real close to the Italian border, so maybe they actually grow spaghetti in Switzerland. So some people may have thought that this was a believable, credible story, so they actually thought, hey, that sounds reasonable. They're growing spaghetti on trees. Maybe we should do that ourselves.
Pretty stupid. Actually, maybe there wasn't as many people in the UK eating pasta at that point, and they didn't understand where noodles or pasta come from. Spaghetti is a type of pasta, right?
Sure.
Nobody in Italy would have been fooled because everyone makes pasta in Italy. So BBC News, they're pretty serious. And so I would be surprised to see them do this sort of prank, as a piece of news. It's fun, though. The pranks are most successful if they're coming from someone you don't expect. Like Tom, I expect Tom to do crazy things, silly, mischievous things. But if it's a principal of a school or one of my friends is very serious, if they pulled a prank, I would probably be fooled because I wouldn't expect it. And I think that's what happened here. The BBC News is pretty serious. So they broadcast this story. This is long ago, 1957, before we were born. The network even created footage of workers harvesting the pasta. So they sent people outside to hang spaghetti onto trees, onto the branches of trees,
right,
to make it look like they were actually harvesting or bringing in the pasta that had been growing on the trees, which is crazy.
I wonder if it was cooked pasta or uncooked pasta.
Oh, it'd have to be cooked because if it's uncooked, it breaks. It just goes...
Right, they hung something and they hung, I guess that's the past tense there, the pasta in the trees before they started filming, so then they probably filmed Italian farmers, or in this case, Swiss farmers going out there to pick the spaghetti off of the trees. So that made the story believable.
So crazy.
And we're describing this prank also as a hoax, okay? H-O-A-X, hoax. That also refers to some kind of deception in which you're being fooled by something. And it's similar to a prank. So it's a hoax, although hoax is larger scale usually.
Well, and it's usually, don't you think, Tom, used for more illegal activities like a kidnapping hoax. You know how people will call you here in Taiwan and say, I have your child. You must pay me this money. That's a hoax.
Sure.
Yeah. Hoax, I wouldn't use so much for a practical joke, I don't think.
But they are introducing the word here, so we're describing this as a hoax or a prank or something like that. And it fooled numerous viewers, with some calling in to ask about growing their own spaghetti trees. So it fooled a lot of people. They believed it. They were taken in by this deception. So if you talk about a lot of things, you can say there were numerous viewers. There were lots of viewers, many viewers, numerous. It means the same thing. And we've also got call in, which is a verb phrase. That's just when you make a telephone call to somebody. I'm calling in to request a song this afternoon on the radio station. So yes, with some calling, or as a result here, some of these people actually called into the BBC. Hey, we saw your story on the BBC, and we'd like to know how we can grow some spaghetti on our trees as well. It might make it actually cheaper if we grow it here in Yorkshire as opposed to importing it from Italy or Switzerland.
Yeah, I wanted to mention hoax can be used for funny things, but a lot of times it's used for illegal things or malicious deception that is trying to hurt people. We'll often hear it was a bomb hoax. You know, somebody calling in and saying there's a bomb on the plane or there's a bomb in the school building, and it turns out that it's a hoax. It wasn't true. It's false. I thought this was interesting. I just looked the word up, and it actually is a contraction or a shorter version of the word hocus, like hocus pocus, that our witches and wizards use when they place a spell. It's interesting. That's where it originated. But it's a trick that you use to deceive or fool someone. Now, here's another place, Sitka, Alaska, which is located in the U.S. One local played a prank on the entire city in 1974. Wow. So one local here, local is being used as a noun. It's someone who lives there locally, calling them a local. They played a joke or a trick on the entire city back in 1974. By burning a pile of tires on top of nearby Mount Edgecombe, he made it look like the volcano was erupting. Oh, I would believe that because they are, as Tom and I were talking about how they're located in the Pacific Ring. Was it Ring of Fire?
Ring of Fire, yep.
Yeah, so they have a lot of earthquakes in Alaska. They had a big one a couple months ago. So this is believable. And I don't know what it looks like if a volcano starts erupting. I've only seen pictures on TV or, maybe a photo. So what he did is he took a lot of tires that run on tractors or cars. And if you burn rubber, it makes that awful smoke, right? It's really black smoke. And he put them near Mount Edgecombe. And Mount Edgecombe was known to be an inactive volcano, something that hadn't erupted. And suddenly, people were nervous. It looked like it was actually erupting. If you erupt, it means something starts coming out. Now, your temper can erupt. If you're really angry and you start shouting, your temper can erupt. But here it just means that volcano becomes active. And what happens is the hole in the volcano starts spilling out lava, which is melted rock, and can kill you if you're in its path. That's very dangerous. And ash and gases, that's what happens when a volcano erupts.
Didn't a volcano in Hawaii erupt last year or something like that?
Big
It
deal.
does happen all the time. And my goodness, there might be some people here in Taiwan who might get the idea, hey, let's make it look like Yangmingshan is erupting or something like that. But don't try that because you'll get in big trouble.
Oh, yeah.
That will cause big panic here, of course, with the Taipei city here. And millions of people scared. Oh, my goodness, the volcano is erupting. Don't do that. So, yeah, please don't do that here. But in any case, yes, this took place in Alaska somewhere. And Sitka's residents were alarmed to see smoke billowing out of the mountain. But the prank was well received for its cleverness when the truth came out. So, of course, if you're talking about a resident, that's somebody who lives someplace, someone who resides in a certain place. We are all residents of Taiwan here, for example. And the people who lived in Sitka were scared. They were alarmed. They were frightened to see smoke coming out of the mountain. Here we've got the word billow, which it means something is coming out of something, but in this particular case, it's coming out in large quantities, especially if it's smoke or clouds or things like that. So they were scared, but still they kind of thought, oh, it was just a trick. They weren't angry. This prank was well received. They thought, wow, that's a really good prank there. You really fooled us there. Good idea.
Yeah, I think today there would be more environmentalists who would be very angry.
Yeah, burning tires is bad.
Yeah, it's really bad for the air, causes a lot of pollution. And as you know, we already have a lot of pollution, especially from the country over there across the ocean. Yeah, so we would like to keep our air a little cleaner. But back then, 1974, people weren't as worried about the environment. Things were cleaner, so they thought it was kind of funny. I wanted to say billow also gives this idea of big puffy shapes. So we'll talk about billowing clouds, or if a girl has a very beautiful evening gown on, sometimes the skirt will billow out if there's a lot of fabric, but it's light and fluffy and puffy. So he was given a lot of credit for coming up with such a clever prank. It says when the truth came out, that's the past tense for come out. If the truth comes out, it just means the truth is revealed. Maybe it was hidden before, but now everybody knows what the truth is.
Right, so they were all good-humored about that when they found out that it was just a joke, that it was just a prank, and so the prank was well received. Sometimes pranks are not well received. There is such a thing as going overboard.
Or going too far.
So be careful there. You don't want to hurt anybody, or you don't want to tell somebody like their mother just died or something like that. No,
that's not funny.
That's 过分. You don't want to do that. That's going
funny.
overboard.
Yeah.
So don't do that. Sorry, I spoke Chinese there, but what the heck? Yeah, I'm allowed.
No.
I can do it once in a while.
You're in big trouble.
Well, I guess I lost my job there. No, it's just a joke. Someone's playing a prank on me. But in any case here, let's take a look at the final paragraph here. It says, if you're plotting to pull a fast one on your friends this April 1st, remember to keep it fun and safe. That's what I've basically just been saying here. Here we've got the word plot, which is used as a verb. To plot something means to plan something, basically, especially if it's a complicated plan. You could also plot your course, for example. If you're trying to sail your ship around the world, you need to plot a course for Guam, for example, to figure out how to sail to Guam. Plot a course there. But in this particular case, we're asking if you're plotting to pull a fast one, if you're plotting to pull a prank on someone, well, please make it fun and safe.
If you pull a fast one on someone, guys, that's a phrase we use. It just means you trick somebody pretty well and they don't get it until you've already been successful. Or you could say, he tried to pull a fast one on me. My sister once came into my room and she was talking to me. She knew that I didn't want her to borrow my nice dresses because she always got them dirty and didn't take care of them. So she was talking to me about something else, and while I turned away from her, she went into my closet, grabbed a dress, and tried to pull a fast one. She tried to get out of my room with that nice dress, but I caught her. So if you try to pull a fast one on someone, you're trying to trick somebody so they don't realize it until it's too late. But sometimes you figure it out in time. Well, if you want to try to pull a fast one on friends, remember to keep it fun and safe. Don't have your friends stick their hand into a mouse trap like Tom did. That's not fun. Or just remember some things aren't as funny to some people as other people. Try to keep your friend's sense of humor in mind. Don't hurt anybody, but you can have a lot of fun.
And don't forget, someone just as mischievous might be looking to make a fool of you, too.
True.
Here we've got the word mischievous, which is from the noun mischief. I should say that mischievous is often mispronounced as mischievous. In fact, it is so common that some people think it's actually a real word. And I used to use this word all the time before I became an English teacher. Now I know better. Mischievous is correct, although mischievous does sound more fun.
Yeah, truly.
It does. And in any case, at the end of this sentence, we have this phrase, to look to do something. That means you're thinking about doing this thing. So if you're looking to make a fool of someone, please don't go overboard. Someone may be just as mischievous as you. And to make a fool of someone is basically the same thing as to make someone look silly. You can do this seriously or not seriously. If you're playing a prank on them, you can make a fool of them. Or maybe in front of your boss, you can make a fool of them too, and they might get fired or something like that.
That's not good.
So kind of depends on the situation. But have fun on April Fool's Day. There's still some time left to play a prank on your friends. And that brings us to the end of our lesson for today. Thank you for joining us, and please join us again next time. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.